Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar on SEO 2.0, kind of the new strategy for this year and going forward with the way AI is having such a big effect. Voice AI, search AI, kind of what we call search everywhere optimization. So we're going to be diving deeper into that, kind of unpacking the changes that are happening now with AI, with voice search, and also with zero-click search, which you may or may not have heard of. These are all affecting your SEO efforts and really your ability to stand out online. We all know that being found on page one of Google is really critical to keeping the phones ringing, keeping your schedule full, keeping your crews booked out. So paying attention to how Google and search is evolving is really key to your future success. Digital marketing is so important, as we all know. That's where everyone's looking. So, I'm here to tell you that it really is evolving at a faster pace than I've ever seen before. AI really is going to change the world. It's already changing the world in many ways, but marketing is certainly one of those that is right out on the forefront of where AI is having an impact. So let's go ahead and jump in. Most of you know me. I see quite a few new faces on the webinar today. So just in case you don't know me, I'm an associate member and industry partner for the NAHB, for NARI, as well as the NKBA. I come from the remodeling field background. I grew up with it, was into real estate development and developing some custom homes, doing some fix and flips, things like that. So you really have a lot of experience. And then I'm really a computer geek at heart. I've been doing this computer thing forever. Started to learn how to code way back in the late 80s. So it kind of tells you how old I am. But anyways, this is really what we do. We are focused on helping the remodeling and construction industry. So we mainly just work with remodelers and builders, some roofers, some window companies, maybe some other home improvement contractors. But this is really all we're doing, and so that we can really be the best at what we do and not try to be an expert in every industry, every field out there. So, really enough about me. Let's dive in here and really talk about what this search everywhere, search everything optimization is really all about. So, search everything optimization, what we're calling SEO 2.2, it really refers to the process of optimizing your content, optimizing your brand and your brand presence across all of the discovery platforms. And so, we're not talking just Google. When you hear SEO, you're kind of typically thinking, oh, just Google, right? No, we're really talking about any of the traditional search engines like Google, like Bing or DuckDuckGo. Google has, of course, the majority of the market share, basically a monopoly, without them calling it a monopoly, but they're over 90% of market share. But we're also talking about voice search as well. So you have Google Assistant, but we're also talking about Alexa and Siri, and having them do searches just based on you talking into your phone microphone and saying, "Find this for me." We're talking about AI search as well. So most of you have heard about ChatGPT. That's probably the most widely used chat AI platform. But there's also Google's Gemini, there's Claude, there's Perplexity, Grok by Elon Musk is really, really evolving at a fast pace. He is a hard charger. He is really pushing the envelope in everything he does. So we're really checking out Grok and seeing some good progress there. And we're also talking about video search, YouTube and TikTok. A lot of people go to the video platforms. That's what their content is. That's the kind of content that they really consume, and they don't necessarily go to the Google as much, especially YouTube, which is owned by Google. So it really kind of behooves you to be on YouTube and putting those videos out there. TikTok maybe a little less so because it's a younger demographic, probably not homeowners yet, especially with these crazy prices for home ownership. I think it just hit a new high today at around $435,000 for the average home price, new record. So kind of tough to get those TikTokers watching home remodeling videos because they don't even own a home yet to actually do those remodeling projects. So We're also talking about visual and image search, like Pinterest, like Google Lens, being able to throw an image in there and say, search and tell me about this image or where it was found, things like that. And then we got social search. So doing search features on Instagram, on LinkedIn, on Reddit, or on X, formerly known as Twitter. So there's a lot going on in terms of where you can search, and everyone's different. So don't think, well, this is how I search, this is how everyone searches, because that's really not the case. Everyone is using a different platform. And so what we're trying to do is optimize your content, your brand for all of those platforms. Users today, they might start their journey on, like, say, YouTube or TikTok, but then they're going to, confirm the details, some of the information they found via an AI platform like ChatGPT. And then they might finish that search by doing a branded search on Google. A branded search being they're looking specifically for your company, and you can monitor that in your Google Search Console. It's called, direct search, direct visits. They were looking exactly for you, and not doing some keyword search like a remodeler near me or something like that. So anyways, this multi-step journey of search really is a shift that means you need to have this multi-channel optimization where visibility and credibility, those are the key metrics, and not just the amount of traffic, the amount of website visits you're getting, for instance. And then we have the rise of zero-click searches. The definition of that is a zero-click search occurs when a user's query is answered directly on that search result page, what we call the SERP, without the need to click a link at all. So you've probably seen this before already, but examples will include those feature snippets. That's usually at the top of the page when you do a search, and AI is generating that result, and it kind of has that hourglass thing saying generating, and then a text box pops up, and then now it's answering your questions for you. So that's an example of a featured snippet. And then you also got the Google Knowledge Panel. So if you're the only company that's showing up on Google's Maps, on the right you have that Knowledge Panel that features your Google business profile, your business details, your star rating for your reviews. That's what's called a knowledge panel. Pretty rare for you to be the only one standing out in that in the remodeling world. Maybe if you're doing something a little more niche specific, like say marine construction, or some very specific kind of remodeling that is a little more niche and not so mainstream, you might see that Google Knowledge Panel. And then, of course, you've got the Google Local 3-pack, your maps results that you see on page one there. That really is where you want to be. That's where you get the lion's share of the phone call, is in that Local 3-pack. So those are some of the things that are affected by the zero-click searches. You get, and not in our profession, but you get like definitions popping up. If you just want a definition for a word, maybe you get the weather results, or maybe a calculator pops up to help you calculate an ROI or a yield percentage on an investment, things like that. Different time zones, maybe money conversions, whatnot. But zero-click searches, they're now dominating over 60% of Google searches. That's a lot. So it's definitely something to pay attention to, especially on mobile. And so while they reduce traditional traffic to websites, this is going to offer you opportunities to position your brand as the answer that comes up in those zero-click searches. Why it matters. You might rank on Google page one still, but have no traffic. They're not actually going to your website and generating that website traffic, but yet you're still on page one, and you can still get the phone call even without getting the website visit. And then appearing in those feature snippets that I talked about, or in the Local 3-pack, that's still brand exposure for you. That's still putting your brand on page one of Google for it to be seen by everybody. And then, shifting your goal from clicks to visibility and trust allows you to thrive in this new landscape. So that way you're not really just dependent upon clicks alone. How many website visits did I get? Because we all know that you can get hundreds and thousands of website visits, but what really matters is, how many people are submitting a web form to contact you, how many people are actually calling to get in touch with you to book that consult. And then some winning strategies. Let's talk about how we're going to really optimize for zero click and multi-platform discovery. This is where you can win in this game if you get out in front of your competitors. And so, nothing has changed about that page one real estate. You want to own the SERPs real estate, that page one. Google is the home page. You need to show up in as many sections as possible, including that featured snippet, which is now an AI generated feature snippet. So you're going to have, clear, direct answers in your headers and in your paragraph formats on your website so that Google can pull the information from your site, and now you're the one that's featured. And then below that's going to be your link, so that people know that that featured snippet came from your website. It's not just AI kind of brainstorming an answer. They're pulling that snippet from a website, from a source somewhere. You want it to be your website. So it's really all about your content on your web page, great headers, keywords in there, good formatting of your paragraphs, and good content. And you also got that people also ask feature. Similar queries. I search for a remodeler near me. People also might ask, other follow-up questions or use other keyword searches. So you want to you want to show up in that box too. You see that typically at the bottom of page one of Google when you're searching. People also searched for, or people also asked this question. And then you see those list of questions. That's kind of more toward the middle of the page below that feature snippet. You asked a question, but other people may have asked these other similar questions. And then if you expand that drop down, now you see a featured snippet for that. So you can keep expanding those drop downs. So you really want to try to show up in as many of those as possible. Be that company showcasing your brand. And then schema markup. This is, basically the use of structured data to get the really rich results in the search results, like your FAQs on your website that really answer the questions that everyone's asking. This is really important. I talk about this a lot with remodelers. As you have all these conversations on the phone, what are the questions that people are always asking you? That should be your FAQs. That should form your FAQ section on your website, and also the FAQ section on your Google Business profile page. Those are the most common questions. And then reviews, people are looking for reviews in schema markup. And then if you're talking about other, industries like recipes or menu, restaurant menus, things like that. And then, of course, the local three pack that we talked about, really making sure you claim your Google Business profile, optimize it, optimize that description, put all your services and keywords in there, not in a spammy way, but in a readable way. But make sure you have that in your content. And of course, collecting as many reviews as possible. And like I said, update it from time to time. Don't just, set it and forget it and say, oh, that's the description I put in there 10 years ago. We'll just leave it and let it go. You don't want to do that. And then you want to, really think about how do you diversify your content distribution. Most modern consumers, they don't stay on one platform. Like I said earlier, they're like a single blog post now should become a YouTube video that you've created from it. Maybe a TikTok or an Instagram reel. Maybe it becomes a Reddit or an answer in Quora, or a LinkedIn article. You can kind of rewrite the blog in a miniature, in a scaled down fashion, and put it on your LinkedIn in order to teach and educate people. And then you can hyperlink to the blog post for them to read more, so they can read the whole entire blog. The LinkedIn post is just going to be a couple paragraphs. You can use it as a Pinterest pin, or even a visual carousel in one of your posts, or in Yelp, they allow you to do visual carousels, photo carousels, basically. basically. So what you're really trying to do is increase your searchable surface area across all platforms. This is what I like to call omnipresence. You want to be omnipresent everywhere on your website, on the blog platforms, on the search engines, on the video platforms, on social media. All of your content is getting kind of repurposed and showing up everywhere across every platform. And then let's jump into kind of voice and AI search optimization. Voice search, it's conversational, but it's also focused on quick answers as well. AI search, like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, this pulls from trusted content sources all over the internet. So, to optimize for these, use a conversational tone, a natural language that you would be speaking. If you are asking someone directly with an FAQ or how to, or maybe what is a kitchen model averaging cost, like you're asking that in a conversational way, and you're writing that in a conversational way. You do want to keep your answers short and direct. That's going to be more ideal and help you show up in those voice and AI snippets. So think about how you're writing your content on your web page. Think about what you wrote on your web page. Is that something that AI can pull from your website and put it in as an answer? If not, maybe think about rewriting that content so that it actually forms an answer or a description that people would be looking for. And then one thing I always talk about in the SEO workshops that we do is always making sure you build in that EAT philosophy. This is what Google's algorithm is based on. And that's your experience, your expertise, the authority that you've built, and of course, the trust that you've built. That all your content should satisfy each of these factors, if not all of them, in every single piece of content you put out there. And then also make sure you're getting cited in the high authority sources, news outlets, Wikipedia, other expert blogs. This is the concept of building backlinks that you've probably heard of. High domain sources, other sources out there that have high domain authority. In other words, their website ranks a lot higher in authority and importance than yours, but they mention your website and then they link back to your website. So that's a backlink. So that's going to really help you as well in terms of getting your content picked up, especially if you get it on news and media sites that have much more authority. And then they're linking back to you. That's going to feed that authority back to you, raise your authority, raise your level of trust, let people know that you're experts and experienced in this. And then all of those combined to maybe get you showing up in one of those featured snippets, just as a happenstance of everything that you've done to build it up to that point. Let's talk about how we measure success without actually measuring clicks. So this is kind of a new paradigm shift for a lot of people. A lot of people on here are probably thinking like, always measuring my website visits. How am I measuring success without that, without those clicks? So let's jump into that. What we're really talking about here is with the advent of AI and these AI featured snippets and the video platforms and all the different platforms that people are going to, what is resulting is your clicks to your website are decreasing. So you really need to think about your new KPIs that measure your impact of your content, of your brand. KPIs meaning your key performance indicators. So we're looking at impressions. How many impressions do you have? How many places are you showing up, in other words? That's kind of like the precursor to actually getting the visits to the website, is getting the impressions, showing up first. You have to show up at you got to go up to bat at the plate before you can actually take the swing. So you can look in Google Search Console for that. YouTube has analytics as well. You've got a lot of social analytics to see what your reach is. How many people are you reaching with your social post or your boost or your ads? And then like citations in AI tools like ChatGPT, are you being referenced? Are you one of those companies that are being referenced and showing up when people are searching for the topic that centers around your services? And then, people taking actions without actually clicking. So, they find you in the Google 3 pack on page one. Instead of clicking on that your Google business profile or clicking on your website or anything like that, they just call you. They see the number and they just call you. So that's kind of a taking an action without a click. You can also have requests for directions. So that again, that's another action without really taking a click. Direct messages. They've got direct scheduling now. Google is rolling that out for their Google business profiles. It's not across every industry yet, but they're going to allow you to schedule and build that calendar and do some of that direct messaging. And then lastly, another KPI that you can measure is branded search growth. What we're talking about is search for your brand. How many searches are being done for your brand specifically, not just your services? That's when you know you've kind of really made it. Is you're the brand that just keeps showing up everywhere. You're the known brand, So like when you think about like Tesla that we talked about earlier, like everyone knows. All you got to do is just say Tesla. It's also a reason why their website used to just be like their emblem, like the T. That's all they had to do is like, hey, you're here. Most remodelers aren't that fortunate. You don't have that brand that just says, hey, we're Target. Here we are. So think about how you're growing the search volume for your brand alone. Measure that as well. And then what I want to do is kind of give you some action steps here. I don't want this just to be me talking. I want to give you some actual steps that you can take to measure your success, to measure how well that the stuff is working for you. So let's jump in and let's first start with defining, what does success really mean, especially when we're talking without the clicks. And so, before you worry about data or tracking, really stop and ask yourself, what are you trying to achieve beyond the clicks? What is your goal? Not every campaign needs a high click-through rate to be effective. Sometimes the goal is just to plant a seed to build trust and create that brand awareness. That's the first step, what we call the top of the funnel. Everyone that enters into your world, they don't go to the bottom of the funnel just waiting to squeeze out when you give them that consultation. They enter into the top of the funnel based on brand awareness and you building trust with them. And you can do that maybe with like offering PDFs or white papers, things like that. Now they're in your world. Now you can email them, you can send them case studies, stay in touch with them, build that trust, build that brand awareness. So what you really want to ask yourself is do you want more leads or do you want better quality leads? Is that what you're striving for? Or are you just trying to get people to call instead of click? You're trying to generate more calls. Are you focused on more walk-ins? Are you focused on getting more referrals? Do you want people to remember your brand for later? So these are all different. They're all good, right? You should want all of these things, and maybe you will track and measure for all these things. But you need to be very specific on how do you start thinking about what success looks like beyond just getting site visits. And so examples of success without clicks would be something like more customers calling your office after seeing your ad. They saw your ad and they made a call. That is a direct measurable outcome for you. Or maybe people mentioning your business when asked, who would you recommend? And so you've picked up on that, and you got the referral from that. Or maybe you're looking for more foot traffic into your showroom. Not everyone has a showroom. I know a couple people on this call today I saw do not have a showroom. So, obviously increased foot traffic is not going to be one of your KPIs. So that's why it's different for every remodeler, every builder on here. You're going to have different KPIs. You might have some similar ones, but you're also going to have some different ones as well. And then maybe higher lead to sell conversion rates. Even if lead numbers stay the same number of leads, but maybe you're converting more of those leads into sales, more conversions, better sales. Maybe you changed your sales approach up a little bit, your presentation, your whole sales system. So that could be a measurable as well. And then you can also maybe measure positive brand mentions in like local Facebook groups or in online reviews where people are actually mentioning your brand. So there's a lot of different KPIs that you can measure. You need to figure out what works for you, what your goals really need to be, what you're striving for. And so I urge you, to take 5 minutes after this workshop, or even start jotting some ideas down now. Write down the real business outcomes that you care about for this quarter, for the next quarter, and then, of course, as you start planning for next year, and I mean, we're already halfway through the year, so it's probably on your mind a little bit. Think about what your marketing plan and what your KPIs and goals are going to look like for next year as well. But it's like goal one could be increasing your showroom visits by 15%. Or maybe you want to get 10 referrals from past clients. And so you're going to do an email blast or an outreach campaign that might include phone calls as well. Maybe improving your call in conversion rate from, say, 20% to 30%. These are what we would call your new success metrics. Even if no one ever clicks, these are still measurable outcomes that you can measure your success by. So, also, remember too, one of my favorite sayings is you can't hit what you don't aim for. We all know that, right? If you don't set a goal, well, you can't hit it because you didn't set it in the first place. So, you must have goals to measure your success by. In marketing, we always say, know your numbers. In other words, you can't track what you don't measure. That's a given. If you're not if you're not tracking it, you're not going to be able to measure. You're not going to really be able to quantify that success. And then step two is tracking other signals that people might be interested in. Clicks are really only one kind of engagement, but people often take action in other ways that show that they're still interested. So, here's some other things that you can track in terms of engagement metrics. These are the metrics that are going to show that people are paying attention, even if they don't click. So, one of those could be like maybe time spent on your page. The longer they spend on your pages on your website, the more interest there is. We call that dwell time. That can be found in your Google Search Console. And then there's also something called scroll depth. So how far do they go down your page scrolling? Do they just look at where they landed and that's it? Or do they start clicking around? Or do they scroll the whole page? Video watch time is a really important one. Always encouraging people to put videos on their website. Was just talking with someone yesterday about getting videos on their website. They're like, oh, I love to do videos. I didn't know they were supposed to be on my website. Yes, yes, yes. Get them on your website. Keeps people longer. Again, dwell time keeps people longer on there. And then you can measure the success of that video too with some some tools that you use to embed that video so that did they watch 3 seconds of the video or did they watch the full 30 seconds? So you can get some really good feedback from that as well. And then, you're measuring your likes, your shares, your comments, your saves on your social post as well. And then action metrics. So these are the actions that show intent without that click still. So we're talking about phone calls. Did you get a phone call from an ad? Did it come from a landing page? Did it come from your business profile? Where did that call come from? And we'll talk about some tools you can use for that as well. We're also talking about form submissions. We're talking about chatbot conversations. Did someone find you in chat? We had someone that just told me that a couple weeks ago. Yeah, we did we used AI to and your name of your company popped up. So those chatbot conversations really important. Direct emails. Are those working? What are the open rates? What are the click-through rates? Who's clicking on your links in those emails? How many times they open them? Things like that. And then, of course, QR code scans. If you use QR codes for anything, you can measure those pretty easily using the QR code generator. And then we also have the brand awareness metrics. These are going to reveal growing interest or recognition in your brand name. So increases in people on Google actually searching for your brand name and not just a service, hoping you'll pop up. Also, like mentions in online groups or forums, like a Facebook group. Like I had someone tell me last month that they found, they asked a question about remodeler marketing, and our name popped up in that group. I'm not even in that group. So, that can happen. Same thing in like community chats. Someone might say, "Hey, who would you recommend?" And, your remodeling company pops up, or like on Nextdoor, you should be on Nextdoor. We were talking about that this morning in a meeting, in fact, making sure that you show up on Nextdoor. That's where your community, where your neighborhoods are talking. And then, getting positive feedback in surveys, where people might say something like, I keep seeing your company everywhere. That's what you're striving for, right? That's that omnipresence that you're looking for. So those are some of the other signals that you could and should be tracking. And then here are some tools that you can use to track some of those non-click actions. So everyone should be doing phone tracking. If you're not tracking all your phone calls, you're missing out. You can learn a lot from those calls. You can use them as training tools. And then you can also, figure out where the different calls are coming from, whether it be from your Google Business Profile, from an ad, maybe from a call tracking number that you're using on print advertising, a postcard or something like that. Where are all your calls coming from? To the tools that really are the most popular are Call Rail and What Converts. And then form fills, Google Analytics will tell you, who and how many people are filling out the form fills. You want to track these submissions as an event, and then you can look into your under your events and find out, what all has been going on there in terms of form fills or other events that you might create to track. Maybe putting on an event, a trade show, having a booth or something like that. That's an event also that you can track and see how many are clicking through to find more information on that upcoming event. Social media and trying to track the buzz around your brand and social media. You can use Facebook and Instagram Insights, but also brand mentions. There's a lot of tools out there for social tracking. So I won't go into those. There's so many. But it's going to track your mentions, your shares, your saves, basically your engagement. Who and how many people are engaging with your post and what you're putting out there. And then walk-ins, people, coming in based on, where they saw you or a QR code they scanned or something, or someone saying, "Hey, I saw your ad and here I am." So you want to be tracking that. Create a simple dashboard or a spreadsheet where you can track all of these different sources week by week, see what's working and what's not. And that, what you track means you can actually start making improvements on it then as well. If you're not tracking it, of course, you're not going to be able to make any improvements. And then step three is really looking at the whole journey, not just the last click that happened. Most people don't become customers immediately, especially in the home building and remodeling industry. It takes time to get them through that sales pipeline. This is a big expenditure for some people, the biggest they'll ever make. They're probably going to interact with your brand on multiple occasions and usually across many different channels before they actually take an action to book a call with you or whatever it may be. So if you're only measuring that last thing they did, like they made the phone call, you're kind of ignoring everything else that actually led them to the phone in the first place. So what we're talking about here is multi-touch attribution. This means giving credit to every step in the journey and not just that last step of making that phone call. You really want to find out what every step in that journey was so that you can optimize for that, make it better based on the fact that, hey, you just got someone through that entire journey. For instance, they see your Instagram video. That's the first step in the journey. And then from there, they go visit your website. And then from there, they see a testimonial on your website. So they go watch that on YouTube. And then they get busy because life happens. And, a few days later, they're Googling your company, Googling your exact brand, that brand mention we're talking about. And next thing you know, they call your office. So, how did they really find you? That they're probably going to say, "Oh, Google." Well, not really. It started with Instagram, then it went to your website, and then YouTube, and then they finally Googled your brand. Not a branded search, not a keyword search. So there's a lot of information that you can dissect from that and figure out. Okay, this was that customer's journey. Most likely, other customers have that same journey as well. So a lot to think about in terms of looking at that last click model and only counting the phone call. Multi-touch attribution shows that Instagram and YouTube are really there to build that trust. So tools you can use for tracking all this, of course, is Google Analytics 4. That's obviously in your search console, should be tracking everything on your website already. But it gives you that path, what's called a path exploration tool that shows that full journey of that customer that they've pixeled and they're tracking. HubSpot CRM also tracks email opens, ad views, and then page visits that are tied to a specific contact. HubSpot is a really good CRM, a lot of features in there. A little expensive, but certainly worth looking at some of those features and seeing if that's going to allow for better tracking for you. And then, of course, your Facebook Ads Manager. That's going to give you your view through conversions, i.e., someone saw your ad, they didn't click, but later they end up clicking. And then we're looking at kind of that cold to warm analysis, how people, start out cold, but then end up hot, actually calling you. That's kind of tracking how many people are moving from just browsing, tire kicking, we like to say, to actually interested in talking with you. So those cold leads, those first time buyers, visitors, viewers, followers, to warm leads, people that are returning to your website because they saw one of your retargeting ads, or they came back now to fill in the form or to make that phone call, or now they're starting to do those branded searches. And then the hot leads, those are the ones that are ready to buy. They want to get the consult, they want to get the design, kind of worked out with you and then move forward. So even if someone doesn't click now, they may be warming up for later. So that's still a win for you. And in remodeling, this is going to be the case most of the time. They're not going to, this is not a plumber where, someone's got an overflowing toilet and whoever answers the phone wins. They get the job. Remodeling, as you guys know, is way different. So, something you can do here is set up your conversion pass in Google Analytics 4 to see what actions are happening before someone actually converts. And then you can use those call tracking numbers per campaign to tie that call to a specific source. Where did they get your number from? Even if it didn't involve that click. And then you also in your CRM, you can create a form field that asks, how did you first hear about us? So they got to fill that out so that, once they fill out that form, that's going to get input. And now you can read, okay, this is how they really first heard about us. And so you can track this across all your leads to really find those first common, first touch points, the one that really got the whole thing started to begin with. And then just asking real people, what worked. Not everything can be tracked with software. Sometimes the best data comes from real conversation. So, just, saying, instead of saying, how did you find us? How did you first hear about us is a better question. What made you decide to call today? Was there a specific ad or a post that caught your attention? So very specific questions that are going to give you better detailed answers. This is the feedback that tells you your marketing is working even without the clicks sometimes. So Train your front desk or your sales team, whoever's taking calls, to ask every new caller or visitor, do you remember how you first heard about us? Try to figure out where that first touch point was. You can also add short, kind of multiple choice questions into your contact form to get that answer. How did you hear about us with options like, either, check the box for Facebook or YouTube or referral or local search or print or mail flyer. And then you want to make sure you're definitely tracking all of this. Keep a spreadsheet or make a note in your CRM that you can eventually pull all that data from, and then look at that note across to all your contacts to really see what shows up the most prevalently in that note. Maybe you just keep seeing Facebook over and over and over, or Google or something like that. Making sure all that gets logged, though, over time, you're going to see these patterns start to develop, and then you're going to know where to kind of focus your energies. And then the last step to just kind of really measure what actually brings you the revenue. So, we all know clicks are nice, visits to your website are nice, but customers, real customers, are the ones that pay the bills. So, make sure to shift your focus to what brings in actual results, actual sales, deals, revenue. So what you want to track here is like an increase in your average job size or your lifetime value of your client. Um, Repeat customers or referrals, tracking how many of those you're getting, or revenue by source, finding out that you're booking more jobs via phone than you are via form submissions or via walk-ins, tracking all of those different metrics so that you can see what's actually working, what's bringing you the most revenue, what's helping you grow your revenue. Even if someone never clicked on your ad, your branding really could be the reason that they end up calling later on. So, action tip here, track your lead sources manually or, preferably in a CRM. Hopefully everyone's using a CRM. Whether there are form fields that automatically get input into your CRM and filled in for you, or whether you add a note that says something like came from a Facebook ad, didn't click, or, second visit to a Facebook ad, something like that. That gives you information to, hey, keep showing those ads. Of course, you're going to experience ad fatigue. We've talked about that in our PPC workshops. So you want to definitely keep rotating your ads, but you can keep showing ads for a while and see who comes in after multiple times of seeing that ad. Or a walk-in. Maybe they saw a sign from a print flyer or something else. How did they actually walk in to your design studio? Was it from Google? Was it from a print flyer? Was it a QR code that you put out there or something? And then comparing your marketing sources to your sales, what campaigns actually led to the actual paying jobs? Trying to figure out what you're doing from a marketing standpoint in terms of what's working and what actually leads to jobs. Are higher quality leads coming from the clickless sources, the no-click sources? And then review this monthly. Are you seeing more inbound calls? Are your campaigns making it easier for people to say yes? You've built enough trust. You've put enough really great work out there on your gallery pages that you're just seeing people say yes easier and more often. So that's something you want to be looking at as well. What might have taken a 12 touch point sales process, now you see it drop to 7 or 8 touch points. So, hey, what caused that? Is that just magic? Is that good luck and good fortune, or is there something you're doing with your marketing or you're revising your sales system that actually helped improve these metrics for you? So, pay attention to anything and everything you can in that regard. And so I'm giving you some action steps, but let's talk about just some key takeaways and an action plan before we send you on your way here. Um, to summarize the top lessons that I've kind of shared today, search is everywhere. And so optimize accordingly. Don't just think about Google and trying to get that keyword ranking. Optimize everything everywhere. More visibility equals more clicks. Impressions and mentions are the modern KPIs. How many places are you showing up in? How many impressions are you making with your brand? and then repurpose everything. Like I said earlier, one blog post can be used across many different assets to create 10 different pieces of content. You can take that blog and turn it in to all kinds of content. I mean, a perfect example is this workshop that I'm doing today. Yes, it's a webinar. But that we're going to put on video platforms. But we can make a blog post out of it. We can make a Google Business Profile post out of it. We will certainly make social media post out of it. We can use it in our email marketing as follow up to say, hey, did you get to watch the workshop? Here's the replay. So, we try to preach what we do. We're marketers. This is what we do, and so we're trying to teach that to all the remodelers and builders out there. Just follow what we do because it works. It's not overly intrusive. We're not trying to just pile on. It's all on different platforms so that people can see it wherever they go. Again, coming back to that omnipresence. And then own your own niche. Be the brand that AI, Google, and social platforms trust. That's just, enough said on that. You want to build that trust. You want AI to show you. You want to show up on Google. And of course, you want to show up on all the social platforms as well. So, some action items that you guys can indulge in here. Run a visibility audit. You can use Google or ChatGPT, TikTok, YouTube, Reddit. Just run an audit. Just kind of see where you're showing up. Just search for your brand and see what all shows up. See what the snippets are. See what the descriptions are, and go, is that really how I want my brand to be represented? Probably not. I just did an audit for someone yesterday, and searching for their brand name, their website showed up third. Their Yelp page, which is not really their page, showed up first, and then an Instagram page. And that's great that they're showing up there, but your website really should show up first. That's where all your content is. That's where everything about you is, your services, your team, your gallery of pictures, your reviews, everything all in one spot. So doing an audit can really reveal, hey, is my website showing up at the top like it's supposed to? And then another action item is optimizing for one page on your website to see if you can get it to show up in the featured snippets, making sure your content matches what a customer would be asking, what that query directly is looking for in terms of an answer. And then most of you have claimed your business, your Google Business Profile page, but make sure that you've updated it. Make sure you've got it all fully optimized. You've got all your services listed, great description, using some keywords. So, this might be an opportunity to go back in there and update it, give it a little refresher. Same thing like a website. You don't just leave your website from 10 years ago and think it's still working as well as it used to. You refresh it, you redesign it, you add different pages, different blogs, different gallery pics as you go. And then maybe, you do a whole complete rebuild as well, just to get a whole new feel to it. So think about how you can refresh your website or your Google Business Profile. And then, take one of your top performing blogs, one of those blogs that, of course, you're measuring, it's gotten the most traffic of all your other blogs. Take that and turn it into a short form video, and do it this week. Do it today. Do it tomorrow before the weekend hits. Take that popular blog and then just talk about it in a short form video and throw it up on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok. See what kind of performance you get from that. Measure that, and then think, oh, wow, look, this is working. This really does work. So there's some of your action steps that you can take. Lots to do, lots to think about. Just try to focus on one or two of these things. You can always come back and watch the replay of this workshop at any time, but I've given you a lot of information. I hope you've learned a lot. I hope you've gotten a lot of value out of it. Search is continually evolving. I mean, it is evolving at a blistering pace. Our team we work super hard. I mean, super hard trying to keep up with it. We talk about continuing education topics every single week. What's new? What changed? What do we need to be up on? What are other people doing? Other marketing agencies? What are our clients' competitors doing? So really try to stay up on this this as much as you can. Keep coming back for more. We're always trying to educate, trying to teach as much as we can. We're really glad you attended. We had a great turnout today. Really glad to see some familiar faces I see over here in our participant count. Really enjoyed having you guys, and hope you got a lot out of it. Thanks for attending, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next month on our next workshop. Take care, everyone.